welcome to Get Your Bell, Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am KG Landry. With me, I have a gentleman who you may recognize from WWE, ECW, TNA, USWA, amongst other promotional wrestling promotions he has been with. Of course, I am talking about Warren Wolf. What's going on, my man?
Hey, man. What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty damn good, man. Congratulations. I know your book's going to be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, man. And we're live, right? So
Yep.
with it, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm independently publishing it through Amazon. So it got uploaded this morning, waiting for approval. That usually takes somewhere between 24 to 72 hours, something like that. So I'm hoping as long as everything should be good to go. The only hiccups that, possibly would happen would be some kind of copyright stuff. Because I had this happen, man, with my podcast I used to do. Like the logo had my face on it, and they come back talking about, well, this is a picture of a professional wrestler. I'm like, no shit, that's me.
Yeah,
So, weird stuff like that can happen. But yeah, it should be up on Amazon within the next couple of days. And for people that and I think the majority of the people are going to want to do it this way, to get the autograph version is you're going to have to go through me to get it, and I'll explain how to do that and everything once it gets cleared and we're good to go, man. But I'm excited about it, man. It's like 330 pages, and I've got a double forward. Jim Mitchell did one, Jeff Jarrett did the other one, and I got Nick Dinsmore that did an afterward. So I'm proud of this, man. It's a deep dive, and like I've talked about a lot of the stuff on my podcast before, but never in such depth. And there's plenty of things in this book that I've just never even mentioned. So it's I don't go in there and I don't really knock people. I'm not in on that type of deal, but I do talk about a lot of things. If anything, I bury myself.
Yeah, you're talking about the copyrights and how crazy shit is.
Yeah.
On my podcast, I literally got flagged for drinking a certain soda
Really?
on there. Yeah. So now I got to make sure my hand's over the name of it. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So when did the idea for you to write a book come?
Well, over the years, man, I've been told that a bunch of times, and then you just kind of like I don't think like super highly of myself, and not that I'm like down on myself or anything. Don't get me wrong, but like there's plenty of people that got books out there that have done much more than I have. But then looking on it, I go, well, I have done a lot of cool things, man, and a lot of people do want to hear my story. And so a dude named Chris approached me. He had another dude attached to him. That dude ended up being a flake, not Chris, but the other guy. And so that kind of went south for a minute, but I stuck with Chris. But then I started figuring out a few things on my own of why am I going to go through this person? And the contract that we originally signed because of that flake guy ended up being bogus anyway. So I just decided I'm going to do this myself. I figured out how to do it, and that's what happened. And so the fire was lit, but then I ended up doing it myself along with a guy. I've got a co-author. His name is Gene Jackson, and I've known Gene for a long time. We're not super close, but I mean, we've become kind of close, obviously, doing this book. But he followed my career. He followed a lot of Memphis stuff. He has a Memphis wrestling podcast that he does. Actually, a couple of them. He does the one with Tommy and Doug, Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert. And so it's been really cool to do it with Gene because, like I said, I've done a lot of this on my own, but the parts that I didn't do, Gene knows how I talk. It's still in my words, and I just edited what he wrote, or he gave me a setup, and then I kind of jumped in there and did it. But I did a lot of it myself, but he helped me tremendously doing it.
Now, walk through someone like me about writing a book. Basically a biography of yourself. Yeah. Now you said that they wrote some of it, but in your own words. Yeah. Was it one of those things that you sat down at the computer, just typed a bunch of shit about yourself and handed it to them?
The first thing was I sat down and they recorded me talking, kind of like me and you were doing. If
Right.
you were just interviewing me about my life, starting from square one, the beginning, birth, and I talked my way through all of it. I mean, there's hours of tape of me talking, and then Gene had it transcribed into words, and then would go in and kind of pick it out and whatnot, and then the parts that we didn't get to, because there's stuff that's written in there that he could not possibly, first of all, know, and second of all, write it how I experienced it and things like that. And I'm not just talking about wrestling, I'm talking about childhood stuff and things that have happened in my recent past, and just things that he couldn't put into words. Yeah, he knows my wrestling careers and can put those type of things in there, but when it comes to the super personal and the super old, young kid, there's stuff that I had to do myself. Yeah.
Right. And I'm glad that you have experience with talking about yourself from way back when, because here on Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast, that's what I like to do whenever I'm interviewing my guests. Although this is absolutely a wrestling podcast, and we'll get to that, I like to get to know the person. I like to get to know Warren Wolf, the man.
Yeah.
So talk me through your childhood growing up. Did you come from a family that were professional wrestling fans?
Well, I'll tell you, man, until my stepfather came into my life when I was around the age of 8. And before that, I can't even tell you that I knew that professional wrestling was a thing. I didn't even know that I knew about it. I don't know if I'd ever seen it or anything. And when he watched Memphis wrestling on Saturday mornings. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and it came on 11 or 12 in the mornings on Saturdays, and I just immediately fell in love with it. Before that, I was like comic books and Kiss. I loved Kiss, and it's funny because like I didn't really listen to a lot of other music. It was just Kiss, and I loved the way they looked. Superhero comic book. It all kind of intertwined there for me. And then I found wrestling, and then again you got the larger than life characters and things like that. So yeah, man. After that, yeah, the whole family was wrestling fans, and my stepdad introduced us to it, basically.
You talk about Kiss. I had an older brother, huge Kiss fan, and he gave me. He had a shit ton of Kiss comic books. He gave to me. Well, my mom, very religious woman, found my Kiss comics. Of course, they were demonic. Threw them away. I can imagine how much money they would be worth now. Did you collect the Kiss comic books?
Well, I had the one that they talk about that was supposed to be written in Kiss blood or whatever.
Yeah.
I had that. I have no idea what happened to it, man. I've lost a lot of things over the years. I had the original figures. I've still got some things, not a lot. I did just get to meet Gene at a Comic-Con thing.
Nice.
I don't know if you can see the reflection there, but a guy named Kevin Thomason helped me out because that was expensive to go to, man. It was like for 2 tickets, me and my buddy Derek went, and it was like $1,000 total for 2 tickets to take a picture. And then I drew a picture. Where is it? I drew a picture of Gene, and I had him autograph it. So that's cool too.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, to do all that, it was like $1,000, man. And I just happened to know somebody that was able to hook me up. So yeah, that was cool. I got to meet Ace. Let's see, that was probably back around 2010, 11, something like that. My buddy that runs a tattoo shop, and he's got a horror convention, the biggest one in Nashville. His name's Ben Dixon, Lone Wolf Tattoo, and it's called the Full Moon Horror and Tattoo Convention. He does it every year. It's been going on for years. But he used to have wrestling there, and me and Brian Lawler were wrestling each other, and then we got out of the ring. And Ben's like, "Come here, man. You got to meet this dude." So I had no idea where we were going. And he walks us back through these rooms, and boom, and then we go into this little back room, and there's Ace Frehley, and he's signing his book, No Regrets and everything. And me and Brian took a picture with him and shit. It was cool.
Awesome. Bob Cook, my co-host on Tuesday nights, very good friend of mine. Thank you for watching, Bob. He says hello, Mr. Warren Wolf. Um,
Hello, Bob, the
now,
cooker.
yeah, best punching in business, 100%.
Yes.
No, going back to you becoming a professional wrestling fan, was there a particular wrestler or storyline that really got you hooked? Like for myself, it was when Ted DiBiase turned on the Junkyard Dog in Mid South Wrestling. Did
Mhm.
you have something like that really
The
hooked you?
biggest thing in my childhood as far as wrestling was Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. I
Yeah,
mean, that was everywhere, and of course, being like I said, being raised on Memphis wrestling, especially, that was a big deal, man. And I can't tell you how many times I had one of those. We were fancy, man. We had a 4-head VCR back in the day, man, and it had the slow mo on it, right? And I can't tell you how many times I watched the back suplex, and then the couple of pile drivers, and I slow mode them and I slow mode them, trying to see. And to be honest with you, I mean that back suplex had to have had to have hurt because he folded him up, man. And just the pile drivers were just good pile drivers. But yeah, that was the one thing that got me. And then they went on Letterman with the whole deal, and I mean that was the greatest work, man. I mean, maybe next to Brett and Sean, the
right.
Montreal screw job, man. I mean, that was a great work. And Lawler kept it a secret for so many years, man. So many years. I mean, I still believe, I mean, you look at Seth Rollins, you can still work the people and the boys and everybody else if you really want to. It's just a
Right.
matter if you want to or not.
Yeah, I think in today's world, because of social media and the
Yeah.
internet, you just have to be more tight-lipped
Yeah.
in order to, work everybody and just kind of
Yeah.
keep things to yourself. At what age were you before you either realized or someone told you that professional wrestling was predetermined?
Mm. I think I always defended it a little bit. I mean, even at a young age, I mean, I could kind of tell,
Right,
it was a little bit of a work, but at the same time, the same way I feel after all these years after being in it. I mean, yeah, it's a work, but man, it hurts. You can't. I mean, and Bob knows. I've seen him post the stuff. You see some of these guys that, I mean, now they missing their punches by this far, and hitting elbows, and I don't know what the hell they're doing, but you know, I tried to even protect it before I ever got in the business.
right.
People, oh, you watch that phony wrestling stuff? Yeah, okay, you try it.
Well, and that's why I never use the F word. I say predetermined because, as you said,
Yeah,
you still get hurt.
yeah,
People in wrestling are very much athletes, and they absolutely still get hurt doing
yeah.
this sport.
It's
Um,
funny, man. I mean, even in 2025, you still get the question. I'm not kidding you. And very educated doctor, a doctor I went and seen in Lexington for an appointment. He found out I wrestled and whatnot, and then at the end of the appointment or whatever, he goes, "I've got to ask you, is it real?" And I'm like, man, it's I said, the F word, like you said. I said, it's
right,
not fake, it's fixed, man. I said,
right,
you can't fake doing certain things, and blah blah blah. And I said, you're a physician, look at me, everything you've seen on me, look at me, man. You can't fake everything. And the ring is not the trampoline that some people would like to believe it is. So, but
right.
that's people that, I think we get caught up, man. With the, what do they call it now, the internet wrestling
Right,
community, and yeah, everybody's kind of in on the deal and knows a bit about everything, but you go in the general public, they really don't, man. They still
right,
don't. It's a little bit of a secret world. Yeah, you've got Unreal and all this on television, but general population ain't watching that, man. I mean, they're
right,
just not.
right,
Wrestling fans are watching that, and those fans are going to be there regardless of, wrestling goes in ebbs and flows as far as popularity, where it goes to the mainstream, then it comes back down, but the fan base is still there. Then it goes up and it's cool again, and boom, boom. And it's done that for years, and it always will, I think.
yeah. And you talked about the wrestling, and people think it's trampoline. So years ago, many years ago, I helped put up a wrestling ring. Mr. Sonny King, who was huge for professional wrestling back in the day. He's from the town that I was from. He retired. I was good friends with his son. And I knew what wrestling school, the wrestling rings back then, what it was. But I thought maybe, with technology, things have changed. talked about CAC this past week or last week in Vegas. I helped put up the wrestling ring for one of the events called On the Fly.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch, the ring is exactly like what I remember freaking
Yeah.
back in the late 80s. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
and I told people, look, a wrestling, it's literally wood. The
Yeah.
bouncing that you see, it's literally the wood that's bouncing up and
Yeah.
down. It's not a trampoline. There's no
Right.
springs, nothing.
Yep.
What I've had people tell me, professional wrestling tell me, and I want to see if you agree that every time you guys take a bump, it's very much like being in a car accident.
Now, I read an article many years ago that a doctor actually wrote, and I don't know if this is where that, because I've heard it more often now than
Right.
back when I first read that article, and I think it was the equivalent, just your basic back bump is the equivalent of, I think it was a 10-mile-an-hour car
Yeah.
wreck. So that's
Sure.
not counting the crazy bumps,
Right.
off the top and this and that and the other. So how many car wrecks have I been in?
Right.
In legitimate car wrecks, that's another thing about me. I've been in, I swear to God, I think like somewhere between 8 and 10 actual car wrecks in my lifetime. And only one of them was I driving. That's bad luck, ain't it?
Yeah.
But you know what? You were talking about the ring.
Yeah.
That my first payday in the wrestling business, but I wasn't in the wrestling business. Me and my buddy had went, and I can't remember. I want to say it was a WWF show in Nashville at the Municipal Auditorium, or it was, no, I know it was. It was a WWF show. It was like a house show. But we went down towards the ring at the end. People were pretty much out of the building, and I want to say it was either, what's the guy's name? Is it Derringer? Golly, the guy that knocked on the door to get Goldberg to come out that last time. What's his name?
Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was either him
Yeah.
or it was Jake's dad, Grizzly. I can't remember which one of them two it was, but I know it was one of them two. And like I said, this is before I got in the business. I was probably 14, maybe 15. And I got in the business right at 16. So anyway, we're down there, and whoever it was, one of those two people comes up and says, "Hey, we need some extra help. Y'all want to help tear down the ring?" We're like, "Hell yeah." So they'd hand us something. We'd walk it to the truck and come back. And I think they gave us $25 a piece cash, and we didn't even work an hour, I don't think. But they must have had like a deadline to get out of the building, or they were running late or something. I don't know. But that was my first payday.
So Bob Cook talk about he'll be in the best punch. He says the king of the true best punch, talking about Jerry King Lawler Wrestling, as well as the power driver. And Doug Dillinger, as Bob Cook says, and he said Doug Dillinger was a real asshole. So going back to your younger years, do you remember your very first live event, professional wrestling wise, that you went to?
Yes, it was at the National Fairgrounds Memphis show. What I do remember, I think the reason I went is because the Road Warriors were supposed to be there against the Fabulous Ones. I think the Road Warriors didn't show up that night for whatever reason. The only match that I really remember was Bill Dundee against Terry Taylor. I remember that was for whatever reason that stuck out in my head. And I can't even tell you how old I was. But the thing about it that stood out the most to me was the noise of the ring, and the feeling when somebody got tossed out. There was no padding, no none of that back then. But the feeling of when a guy got thrown out and landed on the concrete, you could feel it throughout the building. Because I was down on the floor. I don't remember how close I was, but I remember feeling the guy hit the pavement or the concrete, excuse me. And I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And that's something that I carried on when I started, because when I first started, there was no pads around the ring either. And so I would always remember that. And anytime anybody tossed me to the floor, I would try to hit that ground as hard as I could safely. But I knew that the people close to me and even further away from me could feel it if I did it correctly. So that's just something that kind of stuck out in my head.
During your high school years, did you play sports?
So I played a lot of baseball growing up, and then I played basketball a little bit, but not for school. And then in ninth grade, I started wrestling for the school. And 10th grade, started to wrestle again as the season started. But then that's when I found pro wrestling. That was my sophomore year. And I found pro wrestling, found Gypsy Joe and all that. And so I quit the wrestling team. I was like, I'm going to do this. And yeah, that was the end of that. So then I didn't play nothing else in school. I just started wrestling and then eventually dropped out of school.
So, how old were you when you decided you really wanted to be a professional wrestler? And
Dude.
although you said that your family were wrestling fans, what was their reaction to it?
Well, okay, so in my book, I'm gonna kind of plead the fifth here because I
Sure.
really want people to read this.
Okay.
My stepdad came into my life, told me he had been a wrestler, blah 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 blah. Later on, he started going and training, brushing up with Joe Gypsy and a guy named Rick Reynolds. I went to go train with them, and that's how I first got in the ring when I was almost 16 years old. Uh, but before that, now I mean, it was almost right when I was introduced to this stuff that it was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. So I mean, maybe not 8 years old, but probably by the time I was 10, 11, 12,
Mhm.
12, you know, I'm thinking this is what I want to do. And you wouldn't believe, man, because like my stepdad, he subscribed to Pro Wrestling Illustrated and Muscle and Fitness and all this. And I like to draw. So I'm using these magazines to draw pictures out of. So then the bodybuilding stuff kind of got into my head. And I'm wearing to school, you know, and I'm a skinny kid, and to school, I'll never forget, man. To this day, I was in middle school, and I had this shirt on that had like a bodybuilder posed, and it had a American flag in the shape of the United States, and I forget what it was plugging, some show, I don't know, some bodybuilding show. And I remember this, you know, everybody knew I liked wrestling. I remember this girl, she's one of the more popular girls, real pretty, and you'll say her name, but she said, is that you? Is that going to be you one day or some shit like that? I said, yeah, I do. I want to be a wrestler. And you think you're going to make it as a wrestler? I was like, yeah, I do actually. You know, and then I kind of got made fun of by people like her, you know, but what's so satisfying to me is that people like her, and then even people that did make fun of me, but like were star athletes in school, dude, they still holler at me, man. Like, hey, man, that shit was awesome, man. I seen you on this, seen you on that, man. What was it like to, you know? And back then, I'm looking up to these guys. Like, I wish I was the star running back, but you
Right.
know, it's kind of funny, man.
Right. Whenever you were training to be a professional wrestler, my mind goes back again to me helping put up the wrestling ring and just the ropes, just how hard and tough those ropes were.
Yeah.
What was there a point during your training that you questioned whether or not you were making the right decision getting into professional wrestling?
No, sir. No, sir. The first ring that I went to with them, it was out in West Nashville. It was in a barn, a kind of a decaying barn. It only had 3 sides on it. All right. So the ring inside of there barely fit in there. I mean, it probably had, you know, maybe this much space between the ropes and the wall of the barn. The ring didn't even have canvas on top of it. It just had carpet. And the ropes were hose pipes, not taped hose pipes that had the cables under them, but they exposed hose pipes. And so obviously this ring was exposed to the elements. The carpet was mildewed, you know, it stunk really bad. And yeah, I remember it was in the fall, like I said, maybe, yeah, because I turned 16 in December, and I believe it was in December of '89, maybe November, but it was cold out. It was cold. And so think of that environment at the age of 15, about to be 16, but I wanted it so bad. I literally cried that day because they wouldn't take me. They didn't want me to go. No,
Mm.
you gotta finish high school first. Blah 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 blah. All this bullshit. And I literally started crying, man. I was like, please, I can do this, you know. And when I got there, and not to sound cocky or nothing, but as soon as Joe would show me something, hell, I was doing it better than my stepdad and Rick were, you know. And Joe saw that. It's because I studied that shit with that forehead VCR, man. I was watching how to do it, man, for years, and there was my chance. And but no, there was no time. Yeah, and I remember running the ropes, man, and you get those whelps, and uh, till your body gets toughened up to it, and at no point in time I was ecstatic, man. There was never a time when I said, "Is this the right decision?" Not never, never.
Yeah, I had a very good friend of mine. His name's Jason, who actually went to Shawn Michaels Wrestling School back when he had it out in Texas. And
Hmm.
when he got back, he was telling me how by time he actually finished it, over 80% of the class had dropped. Was it the same thing for in your experience that the majority of the boys dropped?
Well, see, so mine was more of a go work out with Joe, and
Okay.
then there was a few other opportunities to get in the ring, but man, I didn't have a lot of training time. They pretty
Yeah.
much were like, okay, he gets it, and we can just kind of throw him on these small indie shows, man. Where like, the types, man. I mean, really, some of the guys are, grown men that have been trying to do it forever and were terrible, and to have someone young like me that actually had a clue, not necessarily did I have a clue up here, but I was teachable, and I looked good doing it, if that makes
Right.
sense, like where they didn't.
Right.
But so no, there was no class for me. I was just thrown in there. But then once I was thrown in there, Joe might have told this person, that person. Then all of a sudden, I'm working with George Weingroff, and he, like, they're on some of these shows, and the shows for me started getting a little bigger, and they're going, "Oh, I want to work with that kid instead of that guy over there. Can I work with the kid tonight?" So then I'm working with George Weingroff, and then I'm working, with Chris Champion, and they would just figure out, hey, there's a new kid on the scene, and hey, he gets it, and you can have a good match with him. So
Right.
why wouldn't they want to work me?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it was for me. It was a lot of hands on, and then once I got to USWA, of course, had been working with Brickhouse Brown, man, dude. The indies back then were different, man. It was Brickhouse Brown, Pez Watley, I mean, just people that knew what they were doing. Even some of the ones that weren't the greatest were still pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so yeah, then when I got to USWA, I'm married to Danny Davis almost every night. And Ken Wayne, and just all these people that knew what they were doing, and I could just learn from them.
Right. And fans, by the way, I know you guys are used to me interviewing people and really digging into their personal lives. In this case, Warren Wolf, his books will be coming out soon, and I want to be very respectful of that. He wants people to
Hey, you can
read
ask me
his
whatever
book.
you
So
can ask me whatever you want to ask me. Whether I answer it,
right, right, right.
I'll give
Well,
you
I
a
want to
short
be
answer.
respectful
I'll
though
give
of
you a
that,
short
and
answer or
yeah,
something, man.
I don't want to put you on the spot like that.
It's
So
no biggie, man.
I'm very
If you
respectful.
got questions coming in, ask them, man, or
So
whatever. It's fine.
well, what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of ask you a couple more questions about the books
Yeah,
and go into your wrestling career. Going to your book, is there a particular chapter of this book that means more to you than any other chapters? And if so, why?
man. There's a couple of them actually. Because like I said, I dug deep on this, man. So there's some stuff, childhood stuff, man, that I went through a lot of emotions writing this book. Like reliving the good times, but also having to take a look back at some of the bad, looking at some of my choices, and consequences and things like that. So yeah, man, like there's a chapter called My Toughest Opponent, and it's basically a whole chapter based on my addiction, mainly to alcohol. I mean, I did other stuff too, but alcohol has been my biggest demon. Uh, but yeah, that was a pretty tough chapter. But then also in a good way, I wrote a whole chapter about being inducted into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, which again brought up on Memphis wrestling, and to be in that Hall of Fame means the world to me. Some people, oh, that ain't shit, man. You ain't in the WWE Hall of Fame. No, I'm not, and I'll never be. But the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame means a lot to me. And honestly, I sent that chapter to Brian Armstrong, Road Dogg, And he read it and he wrote me back the next day and he said, "Brother, I cried 3 times." And see, he actually inducted us into the Memphis Wrestling
Mm,
Hall of Fame. He couldn't be there in person, but he did a video from the studio up there, uh, in a suit and everything, man, and did our induction for us, which was really cool. And he's been a close friend for a long time. Love his family, his whole family, and so yeah, I mean, different ones for different reasons, man. Like I said, there's highs, there's lows, and I go into all that in a lot of depth, man. That I think people are. I really think even if somebody has no clue who I am and they read this book, I think it's a good read. I really do.
right, right. Now you brought up addiction. Um, why do you think that guys from your generation and the generation before you, it seems like addiction really played a huge part of their stories compared to these younger guys that are involved in professional wrestling now? Is it because of the schedule being heavier? I mean, what was going on there?
Man, I honestly think it's and I'm not gonna put anything on wrestling per se,
Right,
because I was doing dumb shit before I got in the business,
right,
and I come from a family of alcoholics,
right,
so I can't really pin it on wrestling. But here's what I will say: is the way I thought of it is that's just what wrestlers do. We wrestle, we go out after, we have some drinks, we party, we go to bed, we get up the next day, we head to the next town, might work out, whatever the case may be, but that's just what we do, you know. And that's kind of the way it was, man. And I didn't have, like, I always got along with the older guys
mm,
because I was a young dude, but I got along with the older guys, and that's kind of what they did. And not to say that I didn't take it a step further, but man, I just didn't have anybody around me that I hung out with that wasn't doing
right,
that, or anybody to even pull me aside. There's a part in the book about this. A certain person in WWE that I heard an interview that he did, talking about us. And so to sum it up, I'll just say there was nobody to pull me aside and say, "Hey, you have got talent, but you need to chill the fuck out."
right,
Nobody ever did that. There was no
yeah,
guiding person for me. And from somebody who was raised with, a stepfather that I, kind of got along with, didn't really get along with. I didn't have a lot of male role model type deals.
mm,
So I clung, cling to the male role models that I was around, that I grew up watching and stuff, that were now my coworkers. So,
right,
and I'm not trying to pin anything on anybody or the wrestling business. I
mm,
mean, they say you're grown at 18, but whatever.
right,
I
right.
make my own decisions, and nobody held a gun to my head, right?
Right, right. You mentioned, dealing with a lot of death. At the CAC this past week during the first night of the awards, they did a beautiful video package of some of the people we've lost within the
Yeah,
past couple of years, and you've seen a couple of guys. I'm not going to mention their names. Manly men that you've seen wrestling in the business who are just sobbing.
yeah.
Is there a particular person that you lost in the industry that affected you more than others?
Mm. Man, it's like I got numb to it so early. I really did, and I know that sounds awful,
Yeah.
but like, okay, so the first wrestling funeral that I ever went to, and this was right before I got into the business, was Tojo Yamamoto. I
Mm,
just I just went because my stepdad wanted to go, and here I am sitting there. I'm seeing Jerry Jarrett crying and giving the was it eulogy and all this, man. And then the next one after that was after I was in the business. It was Eddie Gilbert, and I knew Eddie and I knew Doug even better, and so that one was very personal. And then right about that same time, one of my best buddies growing up from high school died. Uh, and so, God, man, it's like the death was. and then just, I just started remember everybody's just dying around us,
Right.
and you don't get to go to all of them. If you did, you'd have to be a professional funeral attender, as far as the wrestlers, and they're
Right.
here, they're there, they're far away, and you can't make it to all of them. And
Right.
I don't, man. I mean, yeah, and I don't know. There's just been a lot of death in the wrestling business, and for me personally, and it's almost made me numb to some of it. And I don't mean when I say that, I don't mean I don't care.
Right. No,
Uh,
forget it.
it's just like, man, life. You know,
Yeah.
it just last night, me and my girlfriend were at the hospital because her grandmother, who was 99 years old, was in hospice last night. We were there till about 10 o'clock. And then this morning, we got the phone call that she had passed. She was about to be 100 years old. But it just, in that whole thing, I just had a feeling when we left. I was like, and I didn't even know her that well. I just had a feeling. I was like, this is probably, this is it for her.
Right.
Can you imagine living 100 years? Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine the things you've seen, and it's not like it was
Right.
just old age that got her. It wasn't like cancer or anything.
Right.
But so
Right.
she lived a very full life, man. And here I am at 51, about to be 52. I done had a heart attack, and I'm like, dang, am I gonna make it to 60? Yeah,
Let's
man.
hopefully so, my man. So you spent time both in WWE, WWF then, and ECW. How did those experiences compare to working in Memphis, and what was the main differences?
Well, especially Jamie, but me too. I was with him. Let's just put it that way. Jamie, managed Stone Cold in Memphis, and he gets up there and he's, we're the low men on the totem pole, but he ain't acting like that. So in Memphis, we were the guys eventually. We didn't
Right.
start out that way, but his dad was there. So I mean, you got the whole Dundee vibe and all that kind of stuff, and then you go to WWE, excuse me, and you can't act like that. and especially he did. I mean, I did a little bit too, but I didn't think I was. And I don't think he really did on purpose. This is who Jamie is. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot more professional, and then there's the whole, um, writing your interviews for you, which was something completely foreign to us, and we had to do a couple of those. And there's a big story on that in the book. Uh, I just wasn't used to it, man. I'm used to, you tell me, give me your bullet points, and I'll do it in my voice and my character, and we'll go from there. And these guys tried to hand us some scripts that they probably didn't even know, probably never seen us a day in their life. They were probably just told, okay, we got this tag team coming up here, two white guys dressed like Malibu's Most Wanted, and here, write 2 interviews for them. So yeah, that was the differences. But I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was pretty. We got along with everybody, as far as I know. I mean, I know Jamie was over the top sometimes with some people and rubbed them the wrong way. Um, I'm sure you probably heard the Ken Shamrock story. No,
Possibly.
I did not put this in the book because it's really Jamie's story. But
Yeah.
so it was like Shamrock's first week in or something like that. And I don't remember where we were, but the dressing room was just one big room, lockers. It was like a sports team, I think. So lockers all around, and everybody's kind of in a circle or whatever, just sitting around. And Shamrock's across the way there, just sitting there. He's in full gear. It's still pretty early. He's in his full gear, just sitting there, and Jamie was a big mark for UFC,
Mm.
even back then. And so Jamie stands up and he looks over and he goes, "Hey, you Ken Shamrock?" Ken just kind of looks up and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, Jamie puts his leg out. He goes, he slaps it and he goes, "Why don't you jump over here and get you some of that?" So, of course, all the boys, they know Jamie's ribbon, but they know Jamie's Jamie. And so everybody
Right.
goes, "Whoa," at the same time. And Shamrock's looking around like, what the fuck? Who is this little motherfucker? So then every Jamie says something, everybody pops or whatever. And yeah, it was funny as hell, though.
Did you have a whole lot of interaction with Vince McMahon?
Um, so two more stories that are in there. It was brief, man. A lot of times I really didn't have to deal with him. Obviously, we had Ron on our side there, so he pretty much would meet with Vince and tell us what we needed to know. There was a couple of times. One was real embarrassing. It was the first. It was a Royal Rumble, our debut, and it all had to do with the entrance and the rap, and it kind of went awry, and it wasn't really our fault, but I fixed it anyway. And then there was a couple other times they gave us a little bit of freedom, man. You know, because the way it was intended, really, we didn't even have names, right?
Mhm.
We were just two thugs along with the rest of the little entourage there, and I put our names in that rap. They gave me the freedom to write the rap. And that's why I put my name in there, man, because they wanted people to know who these two were. And so we kind of started getting and we also knew like some of those other dudes weren't even wrestlers. D'Lo was, but then I don't remember the other ones and didn't have as much experience as we did. So we were always on the outside of the ring looking for the red light. Which camera's on? Which camera's on? And where do we need to be on it? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
we were always doing stuff like that, man. And then, like I said, Ron knew, Savio knew, Crush knew that if we, said, hey, here if you need us to feed for this, boom, they give us a little creative freedom. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we were given that, which is cool. But like I said, didn't have a ton of one-on-one interactions with Vince.
Right. So you were part of the Nation of Domination, correct?
Yep.
But that wasn't very long, was it?
It was from Survivor Series 1996 until the Raw after WrestleMania 1997, because we got let go because of our actions.
Tell me about that.
There's a whole chapter on that. We wouldn't do it. Remember when I said we were doing things with the top guys, and we were trying to act like top guys as far as outside of the ring after the shows, and it just wasn't a good look. And I think there may have been some other contributing factors to why they ended up letting us go. It was kind of it was a lot of different things going into that, man. It was we were working for WWF, we were working for Memphis, and we were working for ECW all at the same time.
Wow.
That tends to create a little thing because we're the tag team champions in Memphis, and we're not able to make the whole loop because on the weekends we're in ECW, on Mondays and sometimes Sundays we're with WWF. So yeah, there was some stuff, and then we weren't acting right either. So there was a whole bunch of reasons why that probably happened.
Now, obviously on screen you had a relationship with the members of the Nation of Domination.
Yeah.
What about when the cameras were turned off? Did you guys have a bond with those guys? Or
Absolutely, man. Ron was awesome. Ron Simmons is one of the coolest dudes on the planet, man. I love Ron Simmons, and like I said, he kind of took care of us, man, because he knew we was gonna if he needed us for a spot or something, we was gonna be there and we was gonna do it right, and we wasn't gonna fuck it up. He knew he could count on us. He knew we played a part in the thing, man. You know what I'm saying? I think we came across more than they ever expected us to come across, more than what we were supposed to be, and I think he knew that. And hell, even behind the scenes, man, I think that's why probably like some of the stuff Jamie did, because like Brian Lawler went to WWE, and because people didn't like Lawler, they took it out on Brian, and he got ribbed heavy. And Jamie got ribbed one time, but it wasn't nothing major. I never did. And I think a lot of it had to do because we were Ron's boys, man, and Ron was that
right.
respected, plus Savio, plus Crush, that was that was the what do they call them, the BFKs or something?
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I'm not saying we were in that, but we were with them, and they looked out for us. I mean, there's another one in the book, and I won't tell the whole story here, but we was in a bar, and Ron beat the hell out of his boy coming up messing with us. It was great.
Now, back then, the Undertaker was considered kind of the guy in the dressing room, the leader of the dressing room, and then
Yeah.
there was the what do they call it? The court.
Wrestler's court.
Yeah, wrestler's court.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories?
Okay, so Undertaker's first wife and my first child's mother were best friends. They were rats. I'll just say it. I'm sure Mark don't care. They were rats. But at any rate, so I kind of knew Mark a little bit, you know what I mean? And I didn't have that, you know, that standoffishness that anybody else might have had with him. Funny story is I tell these people this. Yeah, back in the day, I sold the Undertaker a tanning bed. They're like, "What? He's supposed to be white." And I was for his wife, but I did. They wanted my tanning bed, so I sold it to them. I got off track there. Wrestler's Court. Yeah, the only Wrestler's Court that I had ever seen or been involved with, and I was actually involved with it, was in Memphis, and Lawler was the judge. And it was over this chick, man, and I went and spent the night at her house, and another wrestler, and this is not in the book, but there's a little bit much to this. Right. Another wrestler was in love with her, and I was like 19, and this dude was probably had to be in his 30s at least. And so he was writing her love letters and shit, and I was over at her house one night, and then so the Lawler held court on it. I don't remember who represented me and who represented him, but the thing was, did she or did she not hold your gimmick in her hand? I think I was found guilty.
Man. Tell me about ECW, the time you spent there. Talk to me about working for Paul Heyman.
So again, Paul, I've never had a bunch of dealings with him, man, because Tracy Smothers, Chris Candido was our ends. That was our end guys, right? But that dressing room, so, you know, people partied before, but this was like, you didn't have to kayfabe, man. You in ECW, you do what you want. You could do it out in the open. You could do pretty much whatever you wanted to do, which was kind of different because even if you did, like, I never went to WWE messed up, especially at first. But not even with a hangover is what I'm trying to say. But and even Memphis, if I did anything, like might have smoked or drank a little bit before the show, it was total kayfabe. You know, you're not bringing it in the dressing room or anything like that. The ride home is a whole different story. But yeah, so ECW is just wide open, man, and yeah, I mean, I didn't have to deal with Paul. The only thing that we did would, like, you know, you hear people saying they were owed money and stuff. We were never owed money because we never left the building. And that was what they would try to do. They try to wait you out, man. Right. Seriously, the show would be over 11 o'clock, man. I remember it'd be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We always travel with Tracy. And we just wouldn't leave. And Paul would have an office set up somewhere in that building that we were in. And we just waited it out till Candido would bring us an envelope, you know, because a lot of guys would be like, screw this, I'm going to the hotel.
Right, right.
You know, nope, not waiting. You're not gonna owe me shit.
During your time at ECW, I mean, you had guys there like Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, New Jack. I mean, there was, you know, Extreme was truly extreme. There's a lot of dangerous spots there. Was there ever a spot that they wanted you to do that was so dangerous that you said, no way, man, I'm not doing this?
Bro, I did more dangerous shit in Memphis than I did ECW.
Really?
Yeah, man. Dude, I don't even think I went through a table. Took some big bumps. I mean, like the pit bulls finish and shit like that, but I don't even think I ever got hit with a chair. I don't think I ever went through a table. I mean, we just had good matches, you know, just high spot matches and things like that. But yeah, people ask me that all the time. How was ECW? Was it rough? No, not for me. Not the position I was in. No, it wasn't. It was very easy, man. They had great bumping rings and everything. So I enjoyed my time there.
Now I want to talk about your character Slash in TNA, because Slash was a lot more violent than what we've seen normally from you.
Yeah.
What did you do to get yourself in that state of mind to become that guy?
So a lot of it had to do with just I felt like PG-13 had run its course. Uh, John Cena was out there, Too Cool was out there, and Public Enemy. And even though we were the first ones to do it, those people had gotten more national exposure with it. So in some people's eyes, it's like, like not the diehards, but you know, some people thought we were the ripoffs, and
Mm,
that really bothered me. And so also I was in a car wreck where remember I told you there's a lot of car wreck.
yep.
I was in a rollover car crash
Mm,
and I got ejected. And so that was when we were with WCW for that little bit. And so I don't know. I just started thinking, man, I got to do something different. PG-13's run its course, and so I came up with this idea for Slash. And the first place I actually did it was OVW. I called up Cornette, and that Danny Davis ran that, so I had two people that liked me there, and I wanted to start this new gimmick. So Cornette actually helped me develop it there before TNA ever started, and yeah, it was just an idea I had, just an idea for a character, man. It comes back from the childhood of drawing these characters, and because that's what I used to do. I would draw wrestlers, and they'd all have gimmicks, and I'd write their heights and their weights and where they were
right.
from, and what their finishing move was, and shit like that. And I don't know how I really came up with Slash, but it was funny because a lot of people thought that I put that scar on, and that thing wouldn't come off, man. I forget what I used to make it. I got it from a Halloween prop shop that was open like year round in Nashville. But I could sweat it. It was hard to get off, and it looked real. And so a
Mm,
lot of people, even the boys, thought that happened to me in that car wreck. So there
oh,
was kind of a bit of a nostalgia with the Slash
right.
character that just kind of took on its own deal, man. It was
Right.
cool though.
You mentioned the name Jim Cornette. In my opinion, Jim Cornette's probably the most brilliant guy in professional wrestling. I
He's
mean,
yeah, man. Yeah.
uh, how much influence did he have on you while you were in TNA working with him?
In TNA or OVW?
I mean, OVW. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, yeah.
OVW.
Oh, a lot, man. I mean, dude, I stayed at his house. This is how hungry I still was. Now let's think. This is 2000, I think it was. I had already been in the business for 10 years. All right, and already done my PG-13, already done my WWF, already done some WCW, ECW. Well, I didn't have a car. I took a Greyhound bus from Nashville to Louisville I think it was Wednesday nights or Tuesday, and I stayed at Jim's house. So we'd watch wrestling tapes and hang out and uh, yeah, man. Jimmy's super smart. He let me write some segments every now and then, man, for our shit. He teamed me up with uh, dude, I'm not gonna say his names. He's a piece of shit. And his wife Stacy, and then Batista was with us
Oh,
too when he first started. And so we had a really cool faction. They put the straps on us and let it run, man. And like I said, he'd take my I don't want to call it advice,
right.
opinions. He'd take my opinions and may or may not use them. But then the hell, I remember sitting at his kitchen table uh, in the morning, drinking some coffee with maybe a shot of something in it, and writing our segment. So yeah, Jimmy was always cool with me. He always liked me and Jamie. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, again, you've been with a lot of great promotions. Which were the promotions that you were with that you felt like personal success? You were more personal successful, there than any other.
Well, I mean, Memphis, I mean, has to be the most successful just because of, the amount of the number of times we held the tag team titles, the company that we keep when Memphis tag teams are talked about, that type of thing. My best work was probably in TNA though. And even later, there was some independent promotions that had TV and were doing good stuff. There was one called Traditional Championship Wrestling out of Missouri. Uh, what was the guy's name? Matt Riviera was running that, and he came from money. His family had money. They had production trucks. They had TV. They had everything, man. And I thought this was going to take off. I really did. Uh, but I was working really good then too. I was really working good. But yeah, you got. I guess you personally, and like I talked about being in the Memphis Hall of Fame and things like that, means a lot to me. And that's just what more people know. Even though TNA was awesome and I love the Slash character, and I think I probably was a better worker than
Mhm.
Wolfie D was. That's just what more people know, you know.
Right, right. Um, your passion for professional wrestling, did that help you at all whenever you were writing your book?
Say that again. The first
Your
part.
your your, your passion for professional
Hmm.
wrestling, that you have for professional wrestling, did that come into play when you started writing your book?
Of course, of course. I mean, I still, but dude, I wish that I could be out there still in the ring and doing it, man. But just my body hasn't held up. You know, some people can last longer than others, man. And I, it's breaking down on me. Not to mention some of the heart stuff, and that ain't nothing to play with, man. But just physically, my body. The last match I did, I never want to be one of those people that the fans look at and go, he needs to stop or he's lost the
Right,
step. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I did the Slammiversary reverse battle royal in 2022. They brought me and Jim Mitchell back for that. It was a battle royal, so I didn't have to do a lot. Uh, Also, Ric Flair's last match, Bunkhouse Battle Royal, did that again. Didn't have to do a lot. But there wasn't long after that. I tried to do a tag match on an indie show, man, and I could just feel it. Like,
right,
this is, man, I don't feel the same out here, and I don't want to. I don't want to be that guy, you know.
right. Just a couple more questions. Going way back, whenever you first started wrestling, do you remember the moment you were in the ring with whomever you were in the ring with, and the light bulb just went off, and you're like, "Shit, I got this! Like, I know I got this."
Oh man, man, I don't know, man, because, and this is the honest truth, man. Other than maybe my first couple of matches, like I didn't get nervous. Okay,
Mm,
after that, I never really got nervous. I was never. I don't want to say never, but I'm almost positive, man, that I would always go out there. I wouldn't forget spots. I was always on time with my shit. You know, I had confidence in myself, but not cocky. Okay,
right,
and I knew. I can't pinpoint a time, but I knew that whoever I was out there with, I was going to be able to hang with them. You know, I mean, I can't think of a time when I felt intimidated by somebody, uh, by their work. Now,
right.
there was a couple of people I thought, man, I hope this motherfucker don't get wild out here tonight. Perry Saturn was one of those guys, man. I mean, I love Perry to death, man, but there was some times where they were they were in Memphis, you know, and we're beating them every night. They're not making any money, and they're pissed off, you know. Him and Cronus. This is before they went to ECW, and I remember thinking, God, man, they're gonna beat us up just because because they're angry.
Yeah.
But yeah, never have I been out there and thought. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been out there a number of times with people that I'm like, well, I'm out here with Mr. Perfect. I'm out here with the Road
Right,
Warrior. You know, and yeah, that's awesome. But at the same time, it's business, and I'm here to have a great match with that person and do it to the
right.
best of my ability, and not. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you had a up and coming talent come to you right now and asked you to give them the most important advice you can give them on how to be successful in the business, what would you tell them?
I would say, buddy, I ain't got a clue. The business has changed. I don't even know what they're doing. No, be teachable, man. Be teachable. I think would be the biggest thing. Listen to everybody because I really feel, and especially doing my podcast, and then I was a producer on the Ric Flair's last match. These young dudes don't want to listen at all. Now, I ain't saying that there was never a time when I was young and an old timer told me something that I thought to myself, yeah, right. But I always listened to it, and I never let them know that I wasn't. Or, I mean, I don't never think there was really a time where I didn't. You know, I mean, I always took that shit because they had been there. They had been there a lot longer than me, and they knew they knew way more than I did.
Right.
So I think there's a rift these days between the older generation and the younger guys, and I think that also falls into society. I
Hmm.
think the kids think they know everything, man, and that's probably happened in the past before, but for some reason
Right.
it seems more exacerbated, man. It just
It is.
seems a lot different these days.
Right. Last question.
Hmm.
After this book, will there be a follow-up book?
Man, so here's the thing. Early on, I kept telling Gene, I was like, man, is this book gonna be long enough, man? Where are we at on pages and shit? That was like my huge concern. And, and then I kept thinking of stuff and I was going back and adding things into this chapter, adding things into this chapter. And I don't know if I said this to begin, but hell, we're at the end of the day here, we're at 330
Mhm.
pages, and that's pretty good, I think, for a book. And there's stuff that I haven't told. Some shit I'll go to my grave with and won't get told. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know, man. I thought about that. I'm like, man, I'm glad it's over, and now I can't wait to see what it does. But it kind of sucks that it's over now. I'm done with this thing. The only thing on the horizon now is January. We should have those action figures coming out. It's kayfabe wrestling heroes, KWK. You can look them up on Facebook. They are the Hasbro
Mhm.
retro figures. I'm
Yep.
excited as hell about that. That contract's been signed for about a year and a half, so that's a done deal. That they're set for January. Um, and also, if anybody's listening around the area, October the 4th, Cumberland Con here in Somerset, Kentucky, where I live. It's a paranormal comic book convention. I'm a special guest because of my drawing ability, because of my book, and then also I'm Wolfie D. So they've invited me over, so that'll be cool.
Right. Right.
But
Well,
yeah,
man,
so I don't know if there'll be another book, man. I've had so many people approach me about doing a comic book because of my
writing with
drawing and then also
drawing.
being
Yeah.
associated with wrestling. Man, that's a lot of work, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work,
Yeah.
man. It's a lot of
Well,
drawing.
look, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, I have 3 pages worth of questions that I didn't really even get to,
Sorry,
but I tell
man.
you what, no, that's a good thing. Um, I'm going to buy your book when it's released. I'm going to read it.
Thank you.
I would love for you to come back on after the book
Absolutely.
has been released, and let's talk about more in depth
Yeah,
about the book.
for
Uh,
sure, man.
Absolutely, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Hey, guys, at 7:30, we will be doing a review. When I say we, me and Mark, we'll be doing a review of AEW Dynamite last night. Join us, find out what we thought about it. Wolfie D, man, it has been an absolute pleasure. They say that, good things are worth waiting for. We had some conflicting schedule
Yeah.
problems. You had
Yeah.
to cancel, I had to cancel. But I tell
Yeah.
you what, it was 100% worth it. You're
Thank
a
you, man.
very
Yeah.
interesting man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck on the book, my friend. And yeah, anytime you want to come on to promote it at any time, even if it's just for 10 minutes, let
Yeah,
me know. You're always welcome.
for sure, man. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.